You weren't created merely to fit into the world's mold. You weren't sent to this earth to simply clock in and clock out, to shrink your soul into a title, a position, or a paycheck. You were sent here with a purpose that breathes beyond your resume, a mission that whispers to you in the quiet places of your heart. Sometimes life tricks us into believing that our worth is measured by the roles we play or the achievements we stack, but the truth is softer, deeper, and infinitely more sacred. You were not sent here to be employed by the Dunya. You were sent to be deployed by the one who created you. And deployment requires courage. It requires surrender. It requires trusting that even when the path feels uncertain, the one who wrote your story is guiding you toward what will grow your soul. Every challenge becomes a classroom. Every delay becomes a redirection. Every closed door becomes a divine steering towards something your heart cannot yet imagine. You were sent here to rise above worldly definitions, to serve in ways that transform you, to walk through the world as a light, intentional, awake, connected. The moment you stop attaching yourself to what people expect and start attaching yourself to what Allah calls you toward, your life shifts, your stress lessens, your clarity sharpens, and your soul finally exhales, because you're no longer living as a hired hand of the world, but as a deployed servant of the most merciful. And there is no purpose more liberating, more powerful, or more fulfilling than that. Your purpose is not tied to a job title, but to your soul's mission. This world will try to convince you otherwise. It will hand you labels, responsibilities, positions, and expectations, and then tell you that your worth depends on how well you carry them. But there is a deeper truth that unfolds when the noise quiets and the heart finally listens. You were created for something far greater than a career path or worldly achievement. Your soul came into this world bearing a divine assignment, one that cannot be reduced to a job description, one that does not expire when circumstances change, one that remains alive even when life feels uncertain. A job may provide income, stability, structure, or recognition, but your mission provides meaning. Your mission is the breath beneath your existence, the light that guides your choices, the whisper that reminds you that you belong to something eternal. When a job ends, your mission does not. When a door closes, the purpose that was written for you before you were born still stands. People may praise you one day and forget you the next, but the one who sent you never forgets why he placed you here. And sometimes, he takes you out of a position not to diminish you, but to realign you. Sometimes the loss you fear becomes the liberation you needed. Sometimes the pause you resent becomes the protection you didn't recognize. Because your soul's mission is bigger than the roles you play, it is about who you become through them. Your mission shows up in the way you treat people when no one is watching, in the way you hold onto faith when the world tests your strength, in the way you rebuild when life hands you disappointment. It appears in your patience, in your compassion, in your ability to choose mercy over bitterness, trust over fear, gratitude over despair. These moments shape you far more than any title ever will. Your mission is stitched into the quiet prayers you make at night, the tears you hide from others, the dreams you're scared to chase, the healing you didn't think you were capable of. It's in the relationships you mend, the hearts you ease, the guidance you offer, and the goodness you plant, even when no one sees. And when you understand this, the pressure begins to lift. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop measuring your value by worldly milestones. You stop seeing yourself as behind, unworthy, or insufficient. Instead, you begin to see the signs of divine positioning in your life, the way certain people enter or exit, the way certain opportunities appear or disappear, the way certain hardships break you only to open you. You begin to realize that your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's because it was never meant to. Your soul carries its own map. its own timing, its own lessons, its own light. Your purpose is not something you chase, it is something you uncover by living authentically, by listening inwardly, by trusting deeply. And the more you connect to the one who created your mission, the more clarity you receive about how to fulfill it. Doors begin to open in unexpected places. Strength begins to rise in moments of weakness. Hope begins to return after seasons of emptiness. Because when you align yourself with your soul's mission, the entire universe seems to shift around you, guiding you, protecting you, and unfolding paths you never imagined you'd walk. So don't allow a job, a position, or a worldly label to shrink the vastness of who you are. Don't allow temporary circumstances to define your eternal worth. You are more than your career, more than your accomplishments, more than your social roles. You are a soul on a divine assignment. And every moment you live with intention, sincerity, and awareness, you move closer to the person you were always meant to be. Your mission is alive within you, breathing, waving, guiding. And the world needs what only you were created to bring. You weren't sent to be owned by the Dunya, but guided by the divine. Yet the world will pull at you with all its strength, trying to convince you that your identity, your value, and your destiny are tied to what you possess, how much you prove, or how many people approve of you. The Dunya tries to claim you to make you forget who you belong to. It whispers that your worth is found in success, in status, in being seen and celebrated. But the heart knows the truth long before the mind catches up. You were never created to be enslaved by this temporary. You were created to walk through it with purpose, with clarity, with a soul anchored in something eternal. You weren't sent here to be captured by its illusions. You were sent to be guided by the one who wrote your story before you took your first breath. There comes a moment in every soul's journey where the world's promises begin to feel empty. The achievements that once felt exciting suddenly feel hollow. The things you chased relentlessly start to lose their shine. And that is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of awakening. It is as the heart remembering that everything here is fleeting and nothing in the Dunya can carry the weight of your soul. You weren't made to attach yourself to what breaks, fades, or changes. You were made to attach yourself to the one who is constant. When this realization settles in your heart, you begin to move differently. You speak differently. You love differently. You stop running after people who were never meant to guide you. You stop sacrificing your peace for a world that cannot give you peace. Instead, you begin to walk toward the one who can. Being guided by the divine does not mean your life will be free of trials. It means your trials will have meaning. It means your tears will water the soil of your growth. It means your disappointments will redirect you toward what was written for you. You start to recognize that the delays were protection, the losses were lessons, the closures were mercy, and the detours were guidance. The Dunya may offer comfort, but only the divine can offer purpose. And when you align your heart with that purpose, you no longer feel lost. Even in the darkest moments, there is a light inside you that does not go out. There is a quiet strength that comes from knowing you are being guided. You stop needing to control everything. You stop fearing the unknown. You stop panicking when things don't go as planned, because you realize you are held, not by the world's stability, but by the stability of the one who never fails. And when your trust shifts from creation to creator, your world changes in ways you never imagined. Suddenly, what once overwhelmed you becomes manageable. What once broke you becomes a doorway. What once scared you becomes a lesson. You walk with a different kind of confidence. Not arrogance, but reliance. Not pride, but surrender. Not self-centeredness, but heart-centeredness. And the Dunya loses its grip on you. You can live in this world without allowing it to own you. You can work, build, and dream without letting these things define your worth. You can enjoy blessings without becoming dependent on them. You can face hardship without feeling abandoned. Because your compass is no longer the world, your compass is the divine. Every step becomes intentional. Every moment becomes meaningful. Every breath becomes a reminder that you are here with a purpose far beyond what the Dunya ever offer. To be guided by the divine is to be free from fear, free from comparison, free from the demands of a world that is never satisfied. And in that freedom, your soul comes alive. It remembers who you are, why you're here, and who you belong to. You were never meant to be a servant of the Dunya. You were meant to be a seeker of the divine. And when you live through the truth, everything within you begins to align with the peace, purpose, and light you were always destined to walk with. Deployment requires surrender, courage, and trust in Allah's plan. This kind of deployment isn't like the world understands. It's not about being pushed into a position, a role, or a task. It's about being placed, crafted, and guided by the one who knows exactly what your soul needs in order to rise. And rising is never effortless. It demands a kind of surrender that feels like stepping into darkness with only a small flame in your heart, trusting that Allah will illuminate the ground beneath your feet step by step. It requires releasing the illusion of control, letting go of the timelines you cling to, and accepting that the journey prepared for you is not meant to break you, but to shape you. Surrender is not weakness. It is the quiet strength of a heart that knows its protector. It is saying, I don't understand this pain, but I trust the one who designed it. And that trust becomes the force that carries you through the storms you never imagined you could survive. Courage, too, is a necessary companion on this journey. Not the loud, fearless kind people talk about, but the subtle kind. The courage to keep going when nothing makes sense, to hold on when the world tells you to choose faith over fear even when fear feels more familiar. Courage is waking up on your hardest days and still believing that there is goodness written for you. It is facing the unknown and trusting that Allah never leaves His servant alone in it. It is resisting the urge to retreat into comfort zones that keep you small and instead stepping into the spaces where your soul expands. Deployment demands courage because growth always happens at the edge of what feels safe, and Allah places you there not to harm you, but to awaken the strength He knows you carry. And then comes trust, the thread that ties surrender and courage together. Trust is what keeps your heart steady when your circumstances shake. Trust is what allows you to look at a closed door and say, there must be something better. Trust is what keeps you from collapsing under the weight of unanswered prayers because you know that delay is not denial. Trust reminds you that Allah's timing is never wrong, His wisdom is never flawed, and His mercy is never absent. There will be moments when trusting Him feels like the hardest thing you could possibly do. Moments when your plans crumble, your heart breaks, or life pulls you in directions you never asked for. But even then, if you quiet your heart, you'll feel the subtle reassurance that what He withholds is as much a mercy as what He gives. To be deployed by Allah means being taken through experiences that refine you. It means being taught lessons that strengthen you, given challenges that elevate you, and guided toward places you never knew you needed to be. The deployment of a soul is not loud, but transformative. It happens in the moments when you choose patience over panic, gratitude over resentment, resilience over disbeliefs. It happens when you stand in worship with a trembling heart, knowing that Allah hears every whisper. It happens when you fall, break, rise, and try again, because you know that nothing written for you can ever miss you, and nothing that misses you was ever written for you. So don't fear the path you're being taken through. Don't resist the chapters that feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar. You were never meant to direct your story, only to walk it with faith. Deployment requires surrender to the one who sees the full picture, courage to face what he places before you, and trust that every step is carrying you towards something meaningful, something divinely chosen. And when you live with that trust, your soul no longer trembles at what happens in your life because it knows who is guiding it. Challenges are classrooms meant to shape your spiritual growth. They are not punishments, not signs of rejection, and not evidence that you are failing. They are carefully crafted lessons designed by the one who knows exactly what your soul needs at each stage of its journey. Life often brings us to moments we never anticipated, disappointments that shake us, losses that break us, and delays that test the deepest parts of our hearts. But within every challenge is a hidden curriculum, a divine teaching that cannot be learned through ease. If comfort shaped us, we would remain fragile. If everything went according to our plans, we would never learn surrender. If every door opened without resistance, we would never discover how to rely on the one who opens them. Challenges are not obstacles to your path, they are your path. They stretch you, soften you, awaken you, and remind you that growth always emerges from discomfort. Sometimes a hardship feels like the very thing that is pulling you away from becoming your best self, but in reality, it is the force pushing you toward it. Allah allows certain struggles to enter your life not because you are weak, but because He wants to show you your strength. He places you in situations that feel overwhelming so that you can learn how capable you truly are when you lean on Him. You start to notice that every difficulty brings a new layer of understanding, a new depth of patience, a new clarity about what matters and what doesn't. The heartbreak that once shattered you becomes the very place where compassion is born. The loneliness that once weighed heavily on your chest becomes the space where your connection with your Lord deepens. The uncertainty that once caused panic becomes the soil in which trust begins to grow. And through these experiences, you realize that every challenge is tailored for your spiritual maturity. No two souls are given the same tests, because no two souls need the same lessons. What feels unbearable today may become the wisdom you share tomorrow. What feels unfair now may become the blessing that shifts the direction of your life in ways you could not imagine. The world sees hardship as something to escape, but the heart that sees with faith recognizes it as an invitation to reflect, to return, to rise. It is in these moments that the soul is refined like gold in fire, shaped not by ease but by endurance, not by comfort but by perseverance. There will be times when you question why things are happening the way they are. You may feel abandoned, confused, or overwhelmed. But the divine classroom is not always understood while you are sitting inside it. Often, the meaning unfolds long after the test has passed. You begin to see that the pain had purpose, the struggle had wisdom, and the delay had mercy hidden inside it. You realize that the person you became through the hardship is stronger, softer, wiser, and more connected to your Creator than the person you were before it. You learn that Allah never burdens a soul without also preparing it, strengthening it, and guiding it, even when the guidance is subtle, even when the road is unclear. Challenges are classrooms, and every chapter of difficulty teaches you something essential: how to trust when you cannot see, how to be grateful even when life feels heavy, how to keep walking even when your heart is tired. They teach you resilience that cannot be learned in ease, humility that cannot be taught in comfort, and spiritual depth that cannot be gained without struggle. And when you finally emerge from those classrooms, even if you come out trembling, even if you come out changed, you realize that you didn't break. You transformed. You grew into someone who sees life not just with the eyes of the body, but with the clarity of the soul. Let go of people's expectations and align yourself with divine intention. There is a deep and quiet freedom that arrives the moment you stop living your life according to the shifting opinions of others. People's expectations are endless, inconsistent, and often rooted in their own fears, limitations, and insecurities. They can shrink you, confuse you, and pull you away from the path Allah designed specifically for your soul. When you build your life around pleasing people, you lose yourself. You lose clarity, you lose peace. But when you build your life around pleasing the one who created, you gain everything that truly matters. The heart was never meant to be governed by the world. It was meant to be guided by the divine. And the moment you detach from what people demand and attach yourself to what Allah wants from you, you return to your true self, the self that is purposeful, centered, and deeply alive. People will tell you who you should be, what you should pursue, how you should behave, and what you should achieve. They will measure your worth by standards that were never meant for your soul. Some will expect you to dim your light so they feel comfortable. Others will want you to be silent when Allah is calling you to rise. Some will pressure you to fit into molds that suffocate your spirit. And sometimes you will fall into the trap of believing that their voices matter more than the voice of truth echoing inside your heart. But divine intention is different. It never pressures, never belittles, never enslaves. It guides. It expands. It leads you toward the version of yourself that Allah always knew you could become. Letting go of people's expectations does not mean becoming careless or distant. It means becoming authentic. It means choosing sincerity over performance, depth over appearance, purpose over popularity. It means listening inwardly instead of outwardly. It means trusting that Allah's plan for you is more accurate, more compassionate, and more perfectly timed than anything anyone else could imagine for you. And aligning with divine intention means being willing to step into the unknown, knowing that Allah will never misguide a heart that seeks Him sincerely. It means letting your decisions flow not from fear of judgment, but from longing for divine acceptance. It means walking paths others may not understand, simply because you know who is guiding you. When you detach from people's expectations, something beautiful happens. Your heart becomes light. You no longer carry the burden of trying to impress, satisfy, or fit in. You begin to live with a sense of inner spaciousness, a quiet confidence rooted not in ego but in faith. You start making choices that nourish your soul instead of draining it. You stop apologizing for your growth, your healing, your boundaries, your truth. You begin to see that people's opinions were never chains. You were just holding onto them too tightly. And when you finally release them, your hands become free to hold onto what is real. Divine intention does not always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. Sometimes it looks like walking away from environments that suffocate your spirit. Sometimes it looks like pursuing paths others dismiss simply because your heart knows they are right for you. And sometimes it looks like slowing down, pausing, surrendering, even when the world tells you to rush. But with every step you take towards sincerity, Allah opens door. With every choice you make out of faith, He places light in your path. With every expectation you release, your heart becomes more aligned with what truly matters. Letting go is not easy. It takes courage to disappoint people. It takes strength to trust what you cannot see. It takes humility to place your desires beneath Allah's wisdom. But the reward is profound, a life that feels purposeful, peaceful, and spiritually aligned. A life where you no longer chase approval, but seek truth. A life where you no longer bend to expectations, but rise to divine calling. And in rising, you discover a version of yourself that feels like home, a self guided not by the world's noise, but by the quiet, unwavering direction of the one who created your heart. True fulfillment begins when you stop seeking validation and start responding to divine purpose. The moment you release the need to be seen, approved, and praised by others, something profound awakens within you. The heart becomes lighter. The mind becomes clearer. Life becomes quieter in all the right ways. Seeking validation is exhausting, a cycle that never ends because people's opinions are temporary, fragile, and always shifting. Today they applaud you, tomorrow they criticize you, and the day after they forget you completely. When you build your worth on something so unstable, your inner world becomes unstable too. But when you shift your focus from people's approval to Allah's pleasure, everything begins to align. Your actions gain sincerity. Your intentions gain purity. Your heart gains peace. Because now you are no longer performing for the world. You are living for the one who sees you even when no one else does. Validation keeps you in a constant state of striving to impress, striving to belong, striving to appear strong, successful, or perfect. It creates a distance between who you truly are and who you pretend to be. It makes you wear masks that drain your soul, but divine purpose pulls you in the opposite direction. It calls you to authenticity, truth, and depth. It invites you to connect with the part of yourself that is not influenced by external noise. Divine purpose reminds you that you were created for something sacred, something that doesn't depend on people understanding or approving of you. And once you start responding to that purpose, you begin to feel a steady calm inside, even when life around you is chaotic. Responding to divine purpose means understanding that your worth is not measured by worldly achievements. It's not measured by numbers, likes, titles, or praise. It is measured by your sincerity, your intention, your effort, and your connection with the one who gave you life. When your heart aligns with this truth, you begin to experience fulfillment that no worldly accomplishment can match. You feel grounded even when you're unseen. You feel meaningful even when you're misunderstood. You feel guided even when the path is unclear. Because your sense of success no longer comes from being validated by people. It comes from being aligned with your Creator. The more you chase validation, the emptier you become. The more you chase purpose, the fuller you feel. This is because the soul was created to worship, to serve, to grow, and to connect, not to perform. When you act for the sake of people, your reward ends with them. But when you act for the sake of Allah, your reward begins with Him. In this life and the next, divine purpose gives meaning to your challenges, wisdom to your setbacks, and direction to your uncertainty. It transforms your life from something you endure to something you understand. Even the hardest moments become part of a greater teaching, and even the smallest acts become part of a greater plan. There comes a time when your heart becomes tired of pretending, tired of chasing, tired of comparing. That exhaustion is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of reawakening. It is your soul telling you that it's time to return to what truly matters. It's time to realign, to reconnect, to respond to the quiet voice inside you that whispers, you were made for more than this. And that more is not fame or applause. It is sincerity, closeness to Allah, inner peace, and a life lived with intention. When you stop seeking validation, you start seeing clearly. You start hearing the guidance that was always there, but drowned out by noise. You start recognizing opportunities that align with your purpose rather than your ego. You begin to attract people and experiences that resonate with your soul instead of your insecurities. And most importantly, you begin to feel a type of fulfillment that does not disappear when circumstances change, because it is rooted not in the world, but in the one who created it. True fulfillment is not found in being celebrated. It is found in being connected, not in being admired, but in being sincere, not in being validated, but in being guided. And when your heart finally understands this, you begin to live with a depth, a clarity, and a peace that only divine purpose can bring.